Hi, and welcome to the inaugural edition of Relaxin' and Racing with Billy and Sam. Um, this video is for the Ironman Blue Ridge 70.3. This is also the inaugural for Ironman Blue Ridge. So, why don't we kick it off with how check-in went?
Okay, so I'll do check-in and transition. Guys, we're in an airport. We're on a time crunch of how to get these out. So we got the air relaxes going, and we're hurting. It was hot today. But let's talk about the race itself. Check-in was pretty standard. If you had your COVID vaccine, no mask, there was nothing unusual about it. You had your barcodes. You got your swag. The swag is the standard Ironman dry bag that if you've seen any of our other videos, it's the exact same thing. You did go ahead and get the shirt, which is
That's pretty nice this time.
yeah, it's nice. There's nothing on the back, which is kind of disappointing, but it's a nice dry fit shirt. You got for the finish, you got a hat and a medal. It's the standard Ironman hat with a medal. The medal's actually pretty nice. We'll try to dig it out here in a little bit. The hat is just the standard. Doesn't say, it just says Ironman on it, white hat. Same thing we've been getting for all the other races. Anything else about check-in that you can remember?
This is the first time we have gotten the first slot. And so
yeah, we checked in really early. We arrived on Thursday, and so we went ahead and checked in on Friday. The race is on Sunday. We checked in at noon, and so we got low numbers, super low numbers. In fact, Sam got number 27, which we're at the airport now. And when we got to the airport, they had these like little cutouts where you stick your face through and pretend like you're an Ironman or whatever. And so Sam stuck his face through the runner. And the runner's number was 27.
Yeah, I wanted that runner because I knew I'd never have a number that low. As it turns out, I got one.
And that was actually the low numbers for this race is really important. If you can check in early, go ahead and check in early because that was very beneficial for the position of the bike. And we'll get into that in a minute, but. Yeah, anything else on check-in? Pretty standard. I mean, it's the dynamic where the earlier you get there, the lower your number you get. If you're there with somebody else, you can ask for adjacent numbers, which is what we did.
Yeah, you have to be specific and say, I would like adjacent numbers.
Yeah, because they'll just assign you another number if you don't ask for a specific
So, yeah, you have multiple people grabbing out of the packet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that
so you end up with a little bit higher number than what you would have gotten, but it's within 2 or 3 numbers of what you would have gotten.
Yeah.
So Sam got 27, I got 28. That was pretty cool. We've never had numbers that low before, ever.
Any race.
Yeah.
I think there's been a race with 50 people. We hadn't been that low.
So talk about transition. So this is a really unique race in that the swim start is 20 miles from the bike start. I mean, from the run start. Or from the finish line. That's important because you have to get up super early. When you're in check-in, you had to select a time to show up for the shuttle. They actually didn't ask for that number. They were just putting people on buses. We couldn't make our time anyway because we had a hotel shuttle that was later than our time. But our initial time was 3:45 a.m. To show up to get to transition.
They never showed up to any race that early.
I know. I don't even wake up that early for races. They stuck in on a school bus, and the school bus, I mean, it took 40 minutes probably.
It did. It took a while, so plan on that taking a while.
Excuse me.
They had plenty of school buses, but they did have to stage them, so the actual final winding road to get up to the swim start.
It was only one bus. It was one lane, only one way for the buses or whatever. So you kind of, it took a little while to get there, so 40 minutes. But, we got on the buses at probably 4:15, 4:20 or something like that, and it was plenty of time for us. I mean, we got there, 5 or maybe a little after 5 when we got to transition. Swim start was at 6:30, and that was a ton of time to be able to do that. You do check in your bike at the finish line, and they put it in a
U-Haul.
Yeah, U-Haul truck and take it down to the swim start for you. Also, there are no spectators at the swim start. It's a tiny little park, and there were tons of volunteers and athletes, but no spectators. So really the first time a spectator can see you is at the bike drop off. So you're done with the swim and the bike by the time a spectator can see you. There were some spectators out on the roads for
locals
for bikes or whatever, but you had to drive to get out there. So transition T1. One thing to keep in mind, they were asking people to let some air out of their tires before they put them in the U-Hauls. So what happened was, as soon as we got there, there was a line of 50 people at least in each line to put air in their tires. And so I was going to give Ironman a hard time about that because obviously they didn't have enough pumps. But by 6 a.m., so remember the swim starts at 6:30. By 6 a.m. there was no line. So what you can do is, when you first get there, use the porta potties, because there was no line for the porta potties at 5:30. There was 50 people in the line for the air, and then at 6 a.m. there's 75 people in the line for the porta potties, and there's nobody in line for the air. So the natural thing is people want to get their bike all set up, and then they want to pay attention to using the bathroom. And so if you do the opposite of that, it'll save you a ton of time. We pretty much sat around waiting on the swim start in transition. Well, I guess we'll talk about T2 after we get done with the bike.
Yeah.
So go ahead and do the swim.
So swimming, standard point of, lake swim. This one was very nice. They found a 76-degree pocket somewhere in the lake.
They did, yeah. The advertised temperature was 76.0.
Yeah. So it had been a little cooler in the days leading up to it, and so they found a spot good for Ironman. So it was Wetsuit Legal. You go in line, you jump off a dock. They had fixed the Chattanooga problem where the actual swim start does start when you jump in the water.
That was very nice.
The sun is coming up over the mountains.
Wear
really,
tinted
really
goggles
pretty.
for sure.
There was one section, so you came out, you took a right, and then you took another right, and then there's those two red kind of buoys. If you're looking at the line, the two red kind of diagonal buoys was straight in line with the sunrise. So I could not see, but it was the shortest possible point of that swim. So if you're going to stare into the sun, at least it was a reasonable length. So plenty of space for everybody. No problems. They're doing the 5 seconds between people.
Yeah.
Again, stay with your comfortable swim time so that you don't get swam over. We had a flight to catch, and so I started a little early. I didn't have too many problems with people swimming over, but I was past a lot. But you do get swam over when that happens. So you come straight out of the swim into where you've set up the bike. Transition. So T1 is nice and easy. You run to your bike. There is gravel, no shoes, it's all asphalt and slightly older. The interesting thing about this was, once you got your bike, the actual line to get on the bike was about 100 meters away from where you came out of T1. So know that, go ahead and put on your bike shoes. It was not worth leaving shoes off to get up. You come out of T1 and it's a pretty steep hill, so that's what they're doing. You're jogging up that hill. And it's kind of rough asphalt, so not super comfortable on your feet. So you start out on the bike, they find a little flat, and then your bike starts on an incline. So speaking of inclines, I'll let you go over the bike.
So there are a couple of speed bumps that, I get why they made you run the 100 yards, and that was the right decision. It kind of stunk because you had to run that, but that's the right decision for that. People were going to have trouble mounting their bike right there. This course is hilly. They call it an epic climb. There's all kinds of hills in this, but they will lie to you. So they have for this race, they have what they call the bear claw. And so there's an award there's a timing for the big climb. There's a timing mat at the beginning of the climb and a timing mat at what they say is the end of the climb. And whatever male, female, and relay team get that, they each get an award and they call it the bear claw. That is not the end of the climb. That starts at mile 23. It's kind of, once you get out of the canyon, it's rolling hills. For the first 20 miles, I did it in 1 hour 0 minutes 41 seconds. For the next 10 miles, it took me 55 minutes 15 seconds. So that's how much of a difference there is in that climb. It starts at mile 23. It ends at mile 28. It does not end at mile 27. That's what they tell you. It ends at mile 27. It does not. It ends at mile 28. But then you go down for a couple of miles, and then there's another climb for 2 miles. The end of that second climb is where they're photographing you. So you'll know when you get to the finisher pick people or whatever. That's the end of the second climb, and then it's down. It's not downhill all the way, but it changes to rolling hills. There's a couple of times where there's another climb that you have to get into some small gears, but that's the end of the major climb, and that's mile 32 about. But when like I said, when you see the finisher pick, you know where you're at. Coming in, I mean, the roads were good. They closed. It was a closed.
They closed the parkway.
Yeah, they closed the Blue Ridge Parkway for us. So that was nice. The road out was a closed road. There was a couple of sections where maybe it was an open road, but most of
we
the
had our
course
own lane, but 4-lane divided.
Most of the course was closed all the way, so that was nice. That was good. Coming into T2, so you come into the T2, which is near where the finish line is. You do rack your own bike, and you have your run bag at T2, and you had to drop off your run bag the day before, so you needed to make sure that whatever you needed for the run was in there. But you placed your bag at T2, so if you had like some water bottles or something that you needed to set up straight up and down, you could do that. It wasn't like they were going to get flipped over or anything. You set up what it was. You come in, rack your bike, grab your run gear, you're off on the run. Tell us about the run.
Start running. So reasonably flat run. You had a few hills, double loop course. Nothing unreasonable there.
I wouldn't even call it hills, more like inclines. I mean,
Florida.
It was pretty
They
flat.
were hills.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was nothing bad there. Certainly flatter than Chattanooga. It was a little bit of a hybrid where you're running on the greenway and you have maybe a 6-foot side and there's another 6-foot side with people getting on the other side. So lots of traffic. If you had two walkers, that was the road. You had to run on the grass to get around them. I know that because I was one of the walkers. But plenty of aid stations. You go, of course, you go over the one bridge. You come out and down. Really reasonable. Aid stations were good, well stocked, plenty of volunteers. They had ice the entire time I was out there, and this was a longer, I think I was right at 7 hours overall, so I was out there for a longer time than normal. And this was a very hot day. I'm going to say mixed shade.
Maybe 30% shade.
Given how hot it was, you were looking for shade.
Yeah.
And there are large segments without shade, so that 30% is kind of concentrated. So enjoy it while you can get it. Go over the finish line. Great finish line location. No problems. Plenty of spectators on the run course. Town was very excited to have us.
Town was very excited to have us. It's an inaugural one. They were ready for it. It's supposed to happen last year. It didn't happen last year. They were ready for us.
So it had new Ironman spell all over it. There were people, in the cars waiting in line, and they were out their windows clapping for us. So kudos to Roanoke. They did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
This race is, they call it Epic Climb. I call it a brutal race. If I multiplied Chattanooga and Augusta, then this is probably a good comparison. This will not be a PR race. This will be a very challenging course.
If this is your first race, man, good for you.
Yeah.
Because it's tough.
Yeah, I met some people out there that it was. But yeah, this is a brutal course. This should not be your first race. But if you're looking for a good challenge, this is a great one. If you're looking for a friendly town, they're fantastic. Plenty of support. Standard Ironman. It was a great race. So they did a very nice job.
One thing that I forgot to mention on the bike, when you start your epic climb, you want to make sure you've already ingested all of the nutrition that you want to, because it gets crowded. I mean, and it's basically impossible to get any kind of nutrition in. You're not pulling out water bottles. You're not getting gels or blocks or whatever. You want to at mile 23. You want to have consumed whatever nutrition you need for the next 4 or 5 miles.
Absolutely.
At that 4 mile top, I mean, it kind of goes down and then goes back up. So it gives you a little bit of break where you can get that, but definitely have some nutrition in you before you start to climb.
Yeah, plan that into your nutrition plan
Yeah.
when you're training for this race. That you will have a large segment that you're holding onto the bike and you're doing everything you can.
It's
Yeah.
not. I mean, literally, they're wall-to-wall people. It's hard to pass, for the congestion, just because everybody's just going slow. So that's make sure you get your nutrition in.
So yeah, the bike is plenty shaded going
Yeah.
up the Blue Ridge Parkway. So trees on either side. So it wasn't bearingly hot like the run. But yeah, that climb is brutal. Call it epic, call it whatever you want. It's nasty. So I mean, good for them. It makes for an interesting race.
Yeah.
There's plenty of.
I mean, if
looking
you
for
signed
your
up for
PR,
it, you
go
know about
for
it.
Yeah. Mostly.
Yeah, well, I mean, we signed up for it and didn't know about it, but this is the only race we can get to, so we needed to have it this week.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to watch our long cut version. We'll regale you with stories.